Welcome to Spiritually Raw. We expose and explore controversial truths, myths, and theories surrounding the spirit world. Guests includes investigators, debunkers, and skeptics of the supernatural, unexplained, and flat-out unimaginable. Content discussed on this show is not necessarily the opinion of the cast of Spiritually Raw, and topics quite often are for mature audiences only. This show is not intended to replace any medical, financial, or legal advice and is for entertainment purposes only. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the ride. Hey everybody, what's going on? I know you have a show to watch, so let me get real quick into this with you. Okay, so Ascended Masters you're watching right now, browse, select, ascend. It's very easy to use. All you have to do is scroll down here. You're going to see the different categories, sessions, courses, products, entertainment, books, conscious business growth. All you do is you simply click on the category that's resonating with you or that you're in need of, and you're going to see a video directory of some of the greatest minds out there. And within 5 to 7 minutes, you'll find out who that person is, what their style is, and if they're going to help you on your journey called life. It's a very easy formula to follow right here. And also too, if you're one of those who does have a product or service that you think that will be a benefit to others and you'd like to be on Ascended Masters, our email is in the description below. It's askspirituallyraw@gmail.com. We'll set up a time to chat and see how you can make a difference in the world for people. So hope you're enjoying the site, everybody. Thanks for sharing this, and much love to you. And most importantly, enjoy the show. We'll see you next time. Hello, everybody. How are you? And welcome to Spiritually Raw. And as always, thank you so much for your energy exchange with us today. And we hope you woke to the most miracle morning and are also having the most fortunate day today. Marguerite Rigoglioso is our soul sister here with us today. So you probably have seen her. She's all around there. So, but if you haven't, April will get you up to speed of who she is in just a second. Thank you all for connecting with us. Thanks for staying, really energetically with us here. Our links are in the description below. If you haven't already, kindly hit the subscribe button, turn on the likes and notification bell so you are aware when we get great guests like Marguerite. Yeah. So what else? Am I missing anything there?
No, I think you got it all.
We got it again. So our soul sister today, Marguerite, what about her?
You guys are gonna love this topic, the virgin birth.
What?
Yes, I love everything that you talk about. First of all, we love, and you are going to dispel the mystery behind the virgin birth, and we are so super excited to talk about it today. So let me just bring you guys up to date real quick on who is Marguerite, in case you have not for any reason seen her before. Marguerite Rigoglioso, she is an expert on the sacred womb chakra, divine conception, and birth, Mother Mary, and the world of the Fae. Marguerite is the global authority on the virgin birth. What she has to share about the hidden histories and the modern day implications have been making huge, and I mean huge, groundbreaking waves. This is really gonna blow your mind. She's the author of several books, including The Mystery Tradition of the Miraculous Conception, Mary in the Lineage of Virgin Birth. She's the founder and director of the Seven Sisters Mystery School, and esteemed spiritual mentor and divine feminine teacher. You can connect with her at her website, and it's all the descriptions and links are going to be in the description at the Seven Sisters Mystery School.com. And if you want to see her in person, make sure to check her out. She's going to be at the Sedona Ascension Retreat. I believe it's March 18th to the 21st. Again, all the links are going to be in the description. And Susan Ross, she's the host of it, make sure to use our code SpirituallyRaw10 and you will get a 10% discount on your tickets as well. So thank you, Marguerite, for joining us today. We're super excited to have you on the show today.
You're welcome, April and Jay. Thank you for having me. It's wonderful to be here.
Yeah,
Thank
for sure.
you.
So let's dive right in if we can. So womb chakras, world of the Fae, virgin birth, miraculous conception. What draws someone like yourself into that and says, okay, this is going to be my journey to really talk about this? Like, how were you drawn into all this?
It just sort of happened along the way, but I was always kind of a mystical child, like even in church, Catholic church. I would go and I would try to go deeper with what the priest was saying, which was usually a boring homily, but I would try, there was something in me always. And the times, maybe you have had this experience when Mary Magdalene would pop up, right around Easter, I was like, there's something to that, right? Who's that?
Who's that?
So I always had kind of a mystical bent. And I had a huge initiation into the realms of the other worlds when my mother died when I was 10 years old. So that puts you in touch with what's on the other side.
Yeah.
Who, what, where, why, and how. So that was a big initiation. But then, I mean, in terms of how I started getting into the sacred feminine in my 30s, like, I don't know, what is it, 30 years ago now.
Which is now just really coming into the forefront now. So that's even more interesting that we're literally way ahead of our current time right now.
Well, little tip, for viewers. I have been told in my medicine ceremonies that I've done that I am 20 to 35 years ahead of my time in terms of what I say and what I teach. So that was borne out in that now everybody's goddess this, priestess that, but back 30, 35 years ago, patriarchy, nobody knew what that meant. And nobody really had you thought the goddess was totally weird or flaky or, the Greek pantheon or whatever. So, I just started getting into this. I went to the California Institute of Integral Studies. And then I did start on the sacred medicine path, opening my consciousness, but it was really kind of a mix of that. And then just going with my intuition, getting psychically trained and going with all these topics in graduate school that I was fascinated about. And eventually I decided that I was going to do like the world treatise on priestesses of ancient Greece. So I started looking up all of these references to them. And meanwhile, I had this sort of downpour of information one fine day. I was perfectly not on, and the downpour was, wow, virgin birth is a real thing. And I had already been hearing, I think, a little bit from Drunvalo Melchizedek, who said that his guide Thoth said that virgin birth was a real thing, but I really got it in my body. And so as I was going through all of those priestess shards and references in the ancient Greek histories and legends and myths, I started finding this whole huge thing that was like, virgin birth is real. These women were doing it. And of course, right with and on the heels of that, I realized, oh my gosh, Mother Mary, she did not act alone.
That's a huge revelation.
Yeah, she did not act alone. And more than that, I really was able to understand what she was doing. And then when I looked at this sort of suppressed gospel of hers, known as the Infancy Gospel of James, which was originally called Birth of Mary, all the stuff that's not in the New Testament, it's material about her birth, her divine birth of her mother Anne. So she's in a lineage of women who know how to do this. And then her infancy and childhood, being already raised as a divine birth priestess from the beginning, and then her going into the temple, being raised by these virgins of the temple. So, it's just been kind of a road. And in and around that, I started learning about the Holy Womb Chakra teachings from India, these ancient suppressed teachings also that a Hindu saint named Sri Kaleshwar brought forth. And it turns out that according to him, Mother Mary was using these practices and processes, these mantras, these yantras. So I got trained and certified in that. And of course, at some point, I just started realizing, hey, the fairies are real, just these things that come to people, right? You're either born with it or it's like, dung, you start realizing one day that, and I went to Jack Purcell channeling Lazarus and went to his big workshop on this. And it totally opened me, where I met my fairy ally. And from there,
can we backtrack just for one second? Because that was a lot of information.
A lot of info. So let's everybody take a breath. We'll just pause with the fairies and just say that, they've gotten in my heart, mind, blood, and, I'm going to be on a road with them going forward as well.
That's
That there is.
awesome. So,
It's like
I want to,
13 different shows in this.
I
right
know,
now.
there's
This
so
is
much.
really
No.
cool, Abby. I love it. I love it.
there's so much to unpack in what you just said.
Yeah.
Okay, so I want to make sure I'm pronouncing it right. It's called Parthenogenesis.
Parthenogenesis.
Parthenogenesis. Okay, and
Yeah,
that
it's
is
so much
the
simpler.
actual term for what you're saying is a real, true, live virgin birth. So can we take that apart just for starters, and then we'll work through the
Yeah.
rest of it?
Yeah,
Okay.
so parthenogenesis is the scientific term for conception without male sperm. And it comes from the Greek parthenos, which means maiden or virgin, and gignesthai, which means to be born. So it means to be born of a virgin or born of a maiden. Now, scientifically, it has been shown to happen in the animal world, and it can be induced through things like electric shock and chemical means. There have been experiments in this regard. So there is like a biological precedent for it. But what I'm talking about is a spiritual practice, a tantric practice of women, a shamanic practice that goes back millennia, all right, thousands of years, and may point to an earlier form of conception on the part of the human race. So the pure parthenogenesis, where that egg goes boop, and starts dividing and turns into a zygote and turns into a fetus and turns into a baby. That is one practice that I believe Mother Mary practiced. It's like the most difficult, highest form of it. But then there were other practices that were related that were they were degenerated from there, where like priestesses could conceive in their bodies, but they were actually having sex on the astral plane with a disembodied God.
Mm-hmm.
And then there was the hieros or sacred marriage type, like what the Egyptian queens did with the pharaohs, where there was a sexual intercourse, but it was understood that the spirit, that the energy that was coming through the then pharaoh was the god Ra, and he was who was impregnating the woman. So it was a kind of a divine birth in that way. So there were various different types.
So it
And
started out like at the highest level, like Mother Mary, and then it started to get diluted as the ages.
Yeah.
Were they
Mother Mary,
conscious, Marguerite, when they were when they would go to these to have sex in like in another plane, if you would, were they conscious of what they were doing? Were they saying, we're going to meet a mate in the other realm here? They were, so they knew what they were doing.
Yeah, they were. And some of those though were rapes. That's the thing, this rape of the maiden thing in Greece. It was that these women would start off their ritual trying to have parthenogenesis, but like it's sharks sniffing around, these male gods would come in on the process and sometimes trick them into making it look like they were something else, or sometimes rape them. And then eventually the women kind of started going along with that process. So then we have like Olympias, the mother of Alexander the Great, is said to have conceived Alexander this way by a sex act with Amun-Ra, Zeus in his form as Amun-Ra. So we're starting to get into really deep mysteries, sex mysteries, mysteries of this dimension versus other dimensions, who and what are the gods, who and what are these priestesses, what is the female womb capable of, and how has this practice also been misused in addition to the digressing that happened over time. Mother Mary was like a throwback to the original form. So she was coming in the Roman Empire. Imagine this, it's like all reptilian heaven over, in the world. And she comes in as like, boom, here's an avatar that I'm weaving from, my whole entire body in connection with Mother Divine. But she was able to do that. She was probably the highest adept that we know of that was able to, in addition to her mother Anne.
And she was taught, right? Like from
she was taught
from a very early age, she was literally being groomed to have this type of a birth, right?
Yeah, by virtue, first of all, of her mother giving birth to her parthenogenetically. All right. So that's what's in that gospel, the infancy gospel of
When
James.
she went and did that, when Mother Mary went there, did she know that her immaculate conception was going to be someone named Jesus, or the concept of Jesus, if you would, that was going to come through? Did she know it was going to be that impactful of a human being? And the ones that did go there, that do this, like you mentioned before, Alexander Great was possibly created immaculately like that. The ones that did have that, are all of those children that were born on that, are they all someone of an Alexander Great Jesus type person?
Yeah, they're all supernatural beings. They have supernatural powers, but they can walk in a human body. They're avatars, okay? So yes, Mother Mary knew that she was going to bring in a great avatar who is going to be a walking, ascension parade 24/7. And that was part of the Holy Family. I believe it was part of their plan, all along, was to bring in this super high level being. All virgin births are to bring in a supernatural being who can walk the human path. Some of them are higher than others, depending on the level of integrity of the priestess, and depending on the form of the conception, and depending on the intention with it. So someone like Olympias, rest her soul, was working with a different kind of technology with Amun-Ra. And so she's bringing in kind of a more problematic being like Alexander, whereas the mothers of Plato, Parthenogenesis, the mother of Plato, and Pythias, the mother of Pythagoras, were working at a higher vibration with Apollo, the god Apollo, and they conceived that way and gave birth to those two beings parthenogenetically, but with the male god's influence. Now take grandmother Anne. She gave birth to Mother Mary all by herself as well, parthenogenetically.
And are they trained? I mean, first, I would imagine it would take many years to,
and lifetimes.
Okay.
You see, because this was the final lifetime of Mother Mary. Sri Kaleshwar said she had millions of lifetimes. Let's use that as a metaphor for many. Okay. She had many lifetimes to perfect herself and achieve ascension. So as a result of being born an avatar, she already was a divine being. As a result of giving birth to an avatar, she was doubly divine. And when she had her sacred death passage, she ascended to full goddesshood, kind of like the envy of all priestesses today, like, hey, let's become the goddess. Well, she did it. And guess what? Interestingly, Rudolf Steiner, the great seer, said that Isis was Mother Mary's incarnation prior to her being Mary. And Plato affirms that Isis walked a human life. She was a netter. So she was an ascension. She was already on an ascension path as well, but Mother Mary wanted the pièce de résistance. So, she's testing out the final stage just before full parthenogenesis with Osiris in a technology that involved the phallus, an artificial phallus. So that story about Osiris being torn to pieces, and then Isis couldn't find the phallus, she had to make one. That's a dildo. That's a sacred dildo being used in that sex magic practice, with Osiris guiding it on the other side to give birth to Horus. And she was able to do that, to give birth to this divine being. She's like, great, okay, got it down. Now, next lifetime, I'm doing it.
Right.
I got divinely born, first of all, from my mother, so that I have the tools and the capabilities to go really high with this. And then I'm going to give birth to a being that it's his first incarnation, according to Sri Kaleshwar. He's a totally divine, Shiva male, made out of the fabric of the universe. That's why Mary is said to be weaving at the time that she's conceiving, because she's weaving universal, energy and into matter. And she gives birth to one such as Jesus, who is just
the whole 9 months.
Yeah, she
Uh-huh.
did. She carried for 9 months, like any human woman. But she may have had a very interesting kind of birth of Jesus, which is in that gospel, that there was a lot of light. She may have been able to do it without pain. She did it on her own before the midwife could even get back into the cave. Joseph had to go off and find a midwife. So, there are lots of these tidbits that are in my book, The Mystery Tradition of Miraculous Conception. If people want to get that, it's very readable. And I have a couple of other earlier books about the cult of divine birth in ancient Greece, and then another one, Virgin Mother Goddesses of Antiquity, where I lay out all the academic research and documentation for how this was going on in Greece.
Marguerite, can I ask you,
Summarize all
like,
that.
with today's technology, so that happened back then, it was, and from what we're understanding, it was more than just Mother Mary that was
Yes.
doing this. In today's technology, fast forwarding to 2022, are we at a point right now where it is happening right now and we're just shut down from it? Number one. Number two, if it isn't, is it going to be happening, since we were talking about you being ahead of the curve 25, 30 years, is
Right.
it going to be happening where we're going to start witnessing more and more of this?
Right. Well, I was shown that it was going to be a few generations, at least 35 years, before women actually received the technologies again to be able to do this fully. I do though know of people who have given divine conceptions. There are some stories, one that I talk about in the book, the story of a so-called Lori who conceived, but she was not practicing divine birth. This happened to her as a breatharian, which it looks like that was one of the things, is you have to be on a prana diet, to be able to do this.
Yeah.
And you have to be totally purified. You
Mhm.
can't eat anything that's going to have to come through your menstruation to expel, because you have to be pure. So I do know, and I've talked about some examples. There's a Hindu woman who has claimed to conceive that way. There's a woman down in Mexico who conceived with Quetzalcoatl. There may, for all I know, be an unbroken lineage of these women that is seriously, secretly underground.
Right.
And then what I've discerned is that this was also used and hijacked by the negative high frequency beings in order to incorporate the leaders of the Illuminati. And I would say royal families and so forth. That the royal families were originally supposed to be divinely born in a pure way. King Arthur being the last legitimately divinely born king. But with the hijacking of this practice and everything else about women's wombs, it became misused to bring in, demon seed, essentially.
Is this a lot of the reason why they've suppressed the feminine energy, because of the power of this divine type of birth that could have been created all throughout these centuries?
Yeah, it's one of them. And then simply the womb itself can, Sri Kaleshwar has a process whereby a couple can have what he calls a divine child. It's a higher vibrational being, and it's a 2-mantra process where the couple engages in one of the mantras while engaging in union. And then after the conception, the mother engages in another mantra as much as she can. So there are many, many things that the womb can do, many powers that it can have, healing, this and that. So of course it had to be shut down. Just normal conception that will bring in a high level being had to be shut down. The knowledge of what else can come and go from the womb and what else the womb can do in terms of healings and so forth had to be shut down. Also, so that these breeding programs could happen where the women could all be abducted, be it by, various types of beings, now the gray aliens and so forth, where people are like, what, so everybody's waking up to what the womb is all about. And we have to become the guardians and the gatekeepers of planet Earth again, saying, no, you will not use my eggs to come to bring your breed into this, whatever reality.
Right.
And yes, we want divine birth back as a high priestess practice to bring more avatars onto the planet so that we can raise our vibration back up. And we also want to be having every child be a divine birth in terms of a high frequency being. And we could say that all children are divine, all people are divine, but it's like layers and stacks of it and dimensions of it, that by raising these vibrations and having these technologies used, you can bring higher and higher vibrational energies onto the planet and help with the global ascension.
For sure. I want to go back to real quick on Jesus and the birth, because there is so much mystery behind that.
Yeah.
The Magi and Joseph. So was Joseph her husband, or was he a guardian?
He was a guardian.
He was a
What
guardian.
I find is that all these women, these so-called husbands, were not really husbands. They were divine guardians that were guarding the womb of the high priestess. So we have this in the case of Mother Mary with Joseph, although Joseph, by that time, it was a degenerated age, the Roman Empire. And you can see in the gospel that he's always reluctant. He does not want to be her guardian, but they do a divining rod, activity, and he's given her, and he's like, oh my God, he doesn't even believe that she's had a divine birth at first. And the angel has to come to her and then slap him upside the head and say, look, she's a divine birth priestess. Okay. This is a divine child. You better protect her. And he kind of got with the program after that.
Right.
The guardian, Anne's partner, Joachim, is a guardian. And then their ancestress, Sarah, the mother of the biblical Isaac, who miraculously gives birth in her elder years, just like Anne does. Her partner is Abraham. Again, it's not really a conjugal marriage, okay? And so that's what we find. And Claire Hartsong, who channeled the Anna, grandmother of Jesus, and the Anna, voice of the Magdalens books, really brought forth that these male partners actually energetically held space for these women. Okay, now this did not happen in the case of Joseph, because he was a little bit out to lunch, and he went off on a building. He was a carpenter. He went off on a building project, leaving
So
Mary.
that part is true. He was a carpenter.
Was a carpenter, and she got pregnant while he was away, and so he didn't really have any part of it. Backtrack though to Anne, and while she's conceiving in her altered state ritual, Joachim is on a vision quest. So he's in the desert and he is praying. So you can see there that there's some help going on, right? Mm-hmm. So, there are stories about Abraham and Sarah that I dig into in one of the chapters about Anne as well, showing that she was a high priestess of divine conception and what her relationship with Abraham really was, et cetera, et cetera.
To everybody like Joseph, that was the guardian, for example, and, he was, sounds like an unwilling participant. Would it be fair to say? At first. So were they all, when they're chosen like that? So did you get a sense of, or do you have a sense you could share with us of like the Josephs of the world, or if you would, the male part of it? How was that even set up for them to even have this conversation? Was it an angel that came to them and said, okay, guys, here's what it's going to look like. Do your part, play nice.
Right.
What did it even look like?
Right. In the case of Joseph, the high priest of the temple, Zechariah at the time, who was the husband of guess who? Elizabeth, who divinely gave birth to John the Baptist.
That was my next question.
Elizabeth, according to one part of the Islamic tradition, was Anne's sister. So you see, it's all in the family. Mm-hmm. Zechariah called all the widowers of the town to see who's going to be the guardian of this Mary. And Joseph, the sign comes when Joseph picks back his rod and a dove comes out of it. That's a supernatural event. And Zechariah's like, okay, you're the lucky winner. And he's like, what? I'm like old, I'm old. This is embarrassing, because it was kind of seen as a marriage, mm-hmm. But the age difference was so great. She's like 12 and he's probably in his 40s, whatever, so he was embarrassed to be seen as like a husband guardian of this woman. Whereas Now, Claire Hartsong, if you read her books, she may have a little bit of a different take that they were all in agreement or what have you. But we know that Zechariah, Anne's husband or, partner, right? They were holy people from the get-go. They knew they had a holy role. The Islamic Quran tells us that they were held in high, high esteem as favored along with, Noah and I mean, all these major people. Okay. So they were part of a holy retinue, right? And I think there's a lot that we don't know from the texts that we're going to have to intuit and pull out of the ethers and so forth. I discuss Abraham and his role, that he knew he was kind of a guardian caretaker. He was the half brother of Sarah, So like there was all this going on. I mean, these were lineages, these were families. And so some of the men were a little bit more with it than others in terms of agreeing to this guardian role, this support role, and so forth. Fast forward to the knights, the Grail, King Arthur. I'm going to be doing a course on this because we have to look at all the divine birth motifs there. Mm-hmm. That was divine birth that was still trying to happen, 500 and 600 AD. But there was so much interference at that point that Guinevere was not able to have that divine birth.
That brings us to my next question. Noah, was he a divine birth as well?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I don't know that we can make that case from the Bible, but somebody could channel on it and see what comes through.
Speaking of channeling on it, where do you go to get this information? How do you retrieve it? Hello, everybody. How are you? Much love to you. It's very good to see you and hang out with you. I hope you're having a fantastic day here. So let me give you some updates about what's going on with Spiritually Raw. So as you can see right here, right, a new facelift. I hope you like it. Okay, so this is the new facelift, the image of the site. So watch Evolve Ascend. It's very cool, very streamlined. Everything's broken down in very easy catalogs, playlists for you to watch whatever kind of topic you're looking for to help you on your journey called life. So let's check it out together. All right. So literally here you go, the homepage right here. You can scroll down. If you're already a member, same login and password as you normally do. If you're not, you can click right here, join now, get a 3-day free trial, check out and binge on the whole network as much as you want. I hope you like it, and I'm sure you will, but that's 3 days on us. Okay, so don't forget to check that out if you're not already. Here's some videos that are recent that we just put up there that you'll be able to check here. Now, also too, I want to go back here real quick, catalog. So this is how we've broken it down for you. Super simple and very easy playlist, new releases, intuitive psychic mediums, the Great Awakening, metaphysical, current events, 2020 videos for those of you who want to take a trip down memory lane and see how that all worked out. Prosperity, special report, I mean, so on and so forth. I mean, it goes on and on and on. We have really brought together the best minds out there that are coming in to entertain us, but then to break it down so simple, again, to help us on our journey called life. So this is really cool here. So also, I want to point out here for those of you who have actually said, hey, I do want to have my own show. We also have a master course preview, and that's there to designed to teach all of you who would like to have your own show, or maybe even need some help in being interviewed when you are on other shows too. But let's go down a little further. I want to show you something else. So for all of you out there who have Roku, you simply need to click here and you can now watch us on Roku TV. Coming soon within the coming weeks, within probably a week or so, you'll see us on the iPhone, Apple. We're streaming everywhere. You'll be able to download the app soon on Apple. But as of right now, like I said, you can stream us anywhere there. So, and these are some examples of the topics that you're going to be watching when you do go to spirituallyraw.live. So thank you very, very much for hanging out with us as you always do. Really do hope you are having the most miracle mornings and are having the most fortunate days. And this really is bringing you a lot of value. And again, helping you on your journey called life. So thanks again, and we will see you all next time.
We'd like to share a story. While it may sound fictional, it's very real and happening right now in front of our very eyes. It's called The Great Awakening. Our sisters and brothers that come on Spiritually Raw are doing everything to help expand global consciousness, and in many cases, putting everything on the line. to share their messages about what's happening around the world for the greater good of humanity. We are living in the most unbelievable times. Some may even say biblical, scary for many and yet exhilarating for others. Together we are taking part in getting everyone acclimated to the Great Awakening process and the exciting new discoveries that lie ahead. The sad part is many of our amazing guests are being heavily censored, socially shamed, and outright banned on many platforms for exposing the truth and piercing the veil. By becoming a viewer, you bring your powerful energy towards this global movement of other truth seekers. If you're resonating with our show, please let us know by hitting the like button, sharing, subscribing, turn on the notification, and leave some comments. Together, we will turn the universal key to global harmony and create a unified world. And remember, tune in often, tell all your friends, and most importantly, may all your dreams come true. Thanks, and God bless Patriots worldwide.